I have nothing against consuming dairy food, and in this case, milk. Okay, that's one thing I want to emphasize to you, because I find that milk can be a very important part of our diet. But I want to show you the difference between the contents of different types of milk, and you can make that decision yourself. So what started this whole thing, this video, is because I've always consumed low-fat milk, especially the chocolate variety. I'll explain to you why that is a problem actually, okay? But I've always consumed milk, and during our primary school time, some of you Singaporeans might be aware, we were told to consume a packet of milk when in school days, okay? Every day when we were in school, right? Our parents had to pay for that, and we were told to consume milk. I can't remember whether it's low fat or not, but that was something that was ingrained in us. So last year I tried to go onto a low carb. I started on the low carb diet. All right, basically I cut away all my carbs, my sugars, cakes, desserts, because I was also experiencing some joint pains and I wanted to lose weight. So I consumed quite a bit of milk in this case, because I had to replace the carbs with something else. So I thought that milk, well, low-fat milk should be good, right? So I replaced low-fat milk. In fact, usually I would drink probably a glass a day, that's it. But I drank like 2 glasses or sometimes a little bit more. And to my surprise, I did not even lose weight. Instead, I gained about 2 to 3 kgs more. So that was something that has always been on my mind back then. And I was like, how can it be? And then I tried to find out more. So I decided to look closer into the labels. I'm going to show you a comparison of the labels later. And to my surprise, low-fat milk actually had more sugars in them. Not the 100% low-fat milk, later you shall see, but the ones that were flavored. These were the ones that were low-fat but high in sugar. And I was thinking, could that be the reason that I'm always getting fat? Or why did I keep putting on weight despite me trying to go on a low carb diet or a reduced sugar intake, or like obvious ones, like rice, noodles, cakes. All these are very obvious carb laden foods or sugar laden foods. Did I notice that in low fat items like milk, actually the sugar content is pretty high? What my thinking is that because they had to bring out the fat, they take away the fat from the product, the milk, they had to make something more flavorful. So they replace it with chocolate or strawberry, and that is in the form of added sugars. This will replace the blandness of 100% low-fat milk. You try low-fat milk, you find that low-fat milk doesn't have that rich taste as compared to a fresh milk. Usually, even if you take 1 glass of full-fat milk or fresh milk, you'll feel quite full. But if you take 1 glass of chocolate milk, surprisingly to me, I feel I still can go in more. Fat keeps you satiated, and this is largely due to the ability to compress the what we call ghrelin hormone. Ghrelin is actually a hunger hormone. So fat can actually suppress ghrelin, and at the same time also help to promote leptin increase. Leptin is another hormone that kind of like triggers fullness in you. So ghrelin will be your hunger hormone, leptin will be your fullness hormone. So fat can help to control, but sugar doesn't. Sugar basically comes in the body and gets absorbed, and it doesn't do much to activate these two things. It only activates insulin. And at the same time, if you remember, I've done a video before, if you take glucose, insulin will be released by the pancreas, and these will start to store extra glucose as fat. Okay, now let's look at the labels of this particular milk brand. They have the fresh milk, the chocolate version, the low-fat chocolate version, and the low-fat version as well. So let's look at the first one. Fresh milk. The total fat is 4.1 grams and the saturated fat is at 2.4 grams. Okay, and let's compare it to the low-fat chocolate milk, which has 1.5 grams of total fat and 1.1 grams of saturated fat. Right? That seems to be on the right path and a good thing. But now let's look at the carbohydrates or sugars. So in fresh milk, they just indicated 5 grams of carbohydrate. Alright, that is important for you to note. And now look at the low-fat chocolate milk. 12 grams 12.1 grams of carbohydrate and 12 grams of total sugar. Okay, this is something that you need to be aware. This is almost more than twice the number of sugars compared to fresh milk. So that is probably why I kept putting on weight back then without understanding the reason behind the idea of low fat and what is replaced when you take fat out. So sugar in this case replaces the fat that was missing. Okay, so then let's look at low fat milk. Low fat milk actually paints a better picture. Low fat milk has only 1.2 grams of total fat, 0.8 grams of saturated fat only. But the carbohydrates is good, it's at 4.9. So there are three key takeaways for me here. Number one, remember that if you take fat out of something, they need to replace it with something like sugar or salt. Okay, this may not be, of course, at home, you don't have to factor that in. But if you go out, just take note that if something is low fat, and to make it still palatable, they have to replace with something. So that is number one. Number two is always take food in moderation. Yes, like me, probably I did the wrong thing by having two or more glasses of milk. That could have thrown everything out. It could have been on the right path if I've taken only one glass of milk. But it also depends on what else I take. But because chocolate milk is so tasty, and because you keep taking it, you don't realize and you don't get full because it's more of sugar than fat. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, if you really need to choose between fresh or 100% low fat milk, it's really up to you. Either one of them, in my opinion, is good. I personally would choose either one depending on my diet that day or what I plan for. If I want to have a little bit more on the fat side, I would take fresh milk. If I find that today my fat amount intake has been exceeded, then obviously I'll go for the 100% low fat milk. So it's really a matter of your choice, but both is still better than the chocolate or strawberry varieties. All right, avoid those if you can. I know it tastes good, but yes, it's a fact that the sugars in them will make you fat because of insulin. Okay, so I hope I've shared whatever I can with you, and now you understand the differences between the different type of milk and how to actually read the label and take note of added sugars. And I hope this leads you to better health.